Absolutely. You can focus
We
on
did
your
do a,
business.
thank you. We did do a work group with three AAAs, Caitlin Sense, Sherry Huska, and Sharon Wright. We met for 1 or 2 hours for the last couple months to go over um, these instructions. We also had Brad Ridley and Barbie Flick was our moderator, and we had Heather with program and a Chris and Melissa and a couple other physical folks. So we have worked really hard on trying to update these forms. And if you have any questions, please let us know. So on this the first thing I wanted to note is that we changed some of the title tabs at the bottom. We did the Schedule A, we changed it to summary by title since that's pretty much what it is. It lists out each title and gives the summary of the budget. We took away the Schedule A1 because it pertained to the NOGA or the NGA and carryover, and we decided that was no longer needed. We changed the Schedule AAA to admin since it is the admin tab. And then we changed the Vermatch page to the summary, the funding summary, since it goes over all the funding um, for the budget. On the admin page, we didn't do any changes except for at the bottom, it was noted that it would be helpful to have a match check. So at the bottom here in orange, we did what was required match, what's budgeted match, and what the over under and if it was um if it was good. This one's off 67 cents, which is most likely a rounding error. Um so and I just left the numbers in so that you can see that the formulas do work. On the Title B page, we didn't make any changes other than adding we did make changes on the admin. We took out the NOGA or the NGA. So everything to the right of here is now blank. We're not doing the NGA or carryover anymore. So we did take out that section of the admin page. And that's the same for all the titles. We took out the NGA carryover and the percentages section. And then we added the match requirements at the bottom. Same with C1. We added the match at the bottom. The other difference with C1 is we added, and I didn't highlight it, we added the NSIP state supplemental non-match. So there's a section next to all the other NSIPs that feed into this net cost for the NSIP state money that we will be receiving. And that is for both C1 and C2. There were no changes made to D except for taking out the NGA. And the same with E. The only changes is we took out the NGA. There is a requirement for match on E, but it's not a requirement of KDADs to have the AAAs do that match. So I did not put a match section at the bottom of E because the AAAs at this time are not required to provide match for E. On the funding summary page, here at the top, and I didn't highlight it, we put a year one or first year and second year because we're going to consider this our 2-year budget. So the first year on this one is 2026 because we will be in the first year of 2026. The second year is 2025. We did that at the top. That way we're not having to go through every year and change all the years in the boxes to the left here. So on our federal funds available, we did a second year allocation remaining, and that is going to be with our new financial form, which will come, we're still working on that. That'll come midsummer, early to midsummer. We should know that second year allocation by December when you turn in your final financial forms. So that'll be a little different than the way we do it now, where we do a reconciliation and then I give you those numbers around February or March. Those should already be reconciled and known in December, November, December. And then this is your first year allocation. So that's what's awarded, and that'll be the full 2-year award, even though it says first year allocation. That's the full 2-year award for that first year allocation. So we can discuss that. And then we've got the second year transfer if you want to do a second year transfer. So if you wanted to do a transfer of your 2025 funds, those would go here. And then we did a first year transfer if you wanted to do a transfer of your 2026 funds. And then second year reallocation. So once we do that reallocation, which we're still discussing, we're discussing doing that around February. Those totals would go here, and that would be, if you're giving money back, it would be a negative. If you're receiving money, it would be a positive, and that would affect your total available. We did not change anything in this requested award section. This all feeds from your titles pages. And then you still input your admin in the green here. This is where the second year, or this is where the 2-year award comes in. Instead of we were going to require you to budget the full 2 years, but the more we discussed it, that would be difficult. So we just did a first year allocation unbudgeted. So this section here is going to be what is unbudgeted of your after your first year that would go towards your second year. So this would feed into this second year allocation remaining once we go to the next year's budget. The other thing we changed is we took out the unawarded nutrition or nutrition checkoff because that should be entered and dispensed within the first year, the year it was awarded. So there should be no previous year's unawarded nutrition checkoff. So we just did the current year's allocation and then the total service requested what was budgeted, and I'm not sure why that says 20,000. I'll have to look at that. This is a section we changed also, your state funds available. We added the NSIP state supplement. So that feeds into this total, and those C2 where we added the NSIP state fund non-match, that feeds into this total. So this total should match this total and this should be 0. So whatever your state supplement, that gets added there, your allocation. We left all the state match and the calculated local match. We left that all the same. So that still calculates your state required, gets inputted there. One thing we did change, and I'm gonna switch screens here really quick. Is we took out this whole section in orange, the breakdown of the NOGA, which calculated your NOGA and your carryover. We took, and your previous year's unawarded, we took that all out because that is something that we deemed was not necessary. We changed this last line a little bit. We put total budgeted of all funding sources. So this total here calculates your NSIP, it calculates your state funding, it calculates your match, your local, it calculates everything. It is not just your federal portion. So this is everything that was budgeted. Any questions so far? I'm going a little faster than I thought it would. Okay. The check page, because I took out the NGA, that made the check page much, much smaller. All these in orange were taken out because they pertain to the NGA. I did add in a year 2 transfer with the year 1 transfer check. So, so that we can check that that's at 40% and that you're spending all of the transfer. And that's all I added to the check page. We are going to send this a blank copy of this out so that you guys can play with it. We would appreciate if you play with it. We would appreciate if you could input numbers and look at it and research it, and then we would like to have a Q&A on Friday to go over any questions that you may have, anything that you see that might not work. I did try to go over all the formulas to make sure that they were correct. But in case I missed something, we would like for you to look at that, and we'll send that out after the meeting today. So we
And
are
then,
still,
so
oh,
just want to make sure, since a lot of the changes, I think the majority of the changes were probably on the summary pages. Um, just want to double check. Does anyone have any questions? Does all of that make sense, or do you need to kind of get into it to see if you're going to have questions?
there really weren't, Sharon for PSA04, there's not really a whole lot of changes to like the fundamental stuff. So I think just getting in and playing with it will give people an opportunity to see if they have any questions.
Great. And then for the instructions, there's maybe a few things me and Lisa should get together on to touch base on before we send those out, but also, so like the instructions, they're kind of more detailed on like, this is what you fill out for this column, just kind of a little bit more description of what the things are supposed to be. If anyone has any helpful suggestions for that or something that you think would make more sense, we would like to include that. Definitely look at things at a lens when you have a new fiscal person coming in. What are they going to need to know? Or is there anything else while we're all here that Lisa should cover that might be confusing? You've got her, so this is the time.
And I do have to add on the summary by title page, I just realized that right, I have to add the NSIP state funds. So I'm going to do that before I send that out this afternoon.
And I think the only thing I noticed too when I was on the instructions, like for net cost, like that column, we might need to update some of the columns that they minus. I was double checking those when I was working through the formula. So Lisa, if you want to just me and you meet or something, we can run through it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I hope.
Oh, we do have a question.
Oh, okay.
All right, Stephanie Thompson's asked about using the wording NSIP for state funds when it is a federal program. Will that be a problem with auditors? So
The extra NSIP is that state supplemental funding that we're getting. That when we were kind of talking about it, we were asking where to put it on the form.
mhm.
So I think since you guys have it called NSIP state supplemental, that should maybe clear that up, or just call it state nutrition supplemental funding. Since it's because of the NSIP cottage, but since it's not really NSIP, it's just state dollars, maybe not have the NSIP listed in it.
That's just been a huge issue with our auditors is the federal state drama, the money where it's coming from. And I just fear with our auditors, if we put it in as NSIP, they're going to think federal and they're going to want to know why I didn't log it as federal.
And so are we talking about our summary by title page? Or are we
Probably
talking
C.
about C?
I think just in
C,
general.
and
Yeah.
I think it's in general. It's on C. It'll be on the summary by title and the funding summary. That's something we'll have to take back and discuss. We hadn't. That's a good point. We called it NSIP because that's how we're allocating it. We're allocating it the same as how we allocated NSIP. So you're thinking just calling it state nutrition non-match?
Which it's only the first million that we're doing like the NSIP allocation, and then the second million we're still figuring out how to allocate that. But essentially, if we just have to combine it for your auditing purposes, we can discuss that in our meeting this week, and we can make that change if it works better for your guys' auditors, like how to classify it.
I just think taking the NSIP where it is actually stated as a federal program, I just think that wording will confuse our auditors.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have to figure out kind of how to the wording on that, because like I said, half of it is allocated one way, the other half is still up in the air. But
So is that
We
gonna
can-
change our forms then next year?
We haven't talked about next year yet. We're just trying to get
Yeah.
through 2026.
Okay, so this might be only a 1-year thing? Is that what you're saying? I guess I
No,
don't,
this form is going to be the form going forward. I don't think, since it says state supplement, your auditors should realize that that is a state supplement. I don't think there should be any confusions since it says it's a state supplement.
okay.
And if so, I would just explain it to them that that was state supplemental dollars because we received a cut from the federal program. And that it comes from the state. I think if you just explain it, your auditors should understand it.
And if it's helpful to put federal in parentheses on the other columns, we could probably do that too, just to clearly separate them, identify what's federal versus state. And I have a question for the AAAs. Talking about these columns, these NSIP columns on this OAA reporting form, if we didn't have those columns, is there any reason the AAAs need these NSIP expenditures on this budget or form?
Since it goes from our total budget and it narrows it all down to come up with the federal funds, it would have to be listed to match, to math out the federal funds. Because it does come from the total cost of our nutrition program. It is funding that helps pay for it, so it does. The expense of the NSIP does go into the total budget, so we would need to have it on here to math out to get to the federal funds.
And can you talk more about when you say math out to the federal funds? Can you tell me can you talk to me about that a little bit?
Yeah, so column 2 is our full nutrition budget. So that's NSIP, state match, non-match, program income. That's everything that's paying for our nutrition program. And then the column 4 through 11 gets subtracted out to make column 12, which is our net cost. And then the match gets calculated from 13 and 16, and then all of that comes out to give what our federal allocation is going to be. So everything that helps pay for our program from federal, match, non-match, NSIP, whatever, all goes back to our total budget column.
Okay. So let me ask another kind of maybe same question in a little different way. So if this budget was just for OAA allocated or related dollars, since NSIP is different, would that impact you all if NSIP was just handled completely separately?
For PSA 4, no, because we're not a direct service provider.
It still plays into the budgets of all of our providers, though. We still have to have that to figure out that federal fund source for each one of our providers.
For NSIP, since it's just a pass-through, if the income and expense wasn't included as on an OAA budget, it would just be, it comes to us and we turn around and pay them. It wouldn't affect the total budget. We would just do the budget without the NSIP because it just passes through us to our providers.
But it would
So-
still affect the match and non-match, correct?
No,
Because
because the match should only be calculated on the OAA, which is why it's subtracted out of the federal before you start calculating your match. Your match is only calculated on your federal funds. It's not on the whole budget.
if I go into the ones I've been working on and I put a 0 in for NSIP, it changes my federal fund.
Correct, which would change your match calculation. But it doesn't affect, it's because, are you taking it out of your total budget as well? Because you would need to subtract your expense out of your total budget. Your income and your expense would no longer be on the form. You would need to subtract your NSIP out of your primary on your total budget as well.
Okay.
So it would essentially be a moot point because you're taking the income and the matching expense completely out of your budget. Then it would be a separate, it would be like a ship contract. It'd be a separate contract where it's just AAA gets the NSIP, we pass it on to our provider.
But if you're a direct service provider,
It calculates different for the direct services because we don't, it's a pass through for us, not for them.
correct, so it's taken into my total meal cost. I mean, the NSIP reduces my total meal cost.
And maybe that's the confusion for me, is because I do all of the budgets for our meal providers. So it does come into play there for me. I mean, I do that for them, and we will be a direct service provider next year. More so than we are now. I guess we do shelf stable now, but next year we will be C1 and C2.
Well, this also doesn't provide an accurate cost per meal when you pull out those expenses. You're going to have a reduction in what your actual cost per meal is.
Yeah, and just for some context, the reason I asked the question is I know we're going to have to do something a little different with NSIP moving forward contractually, just because of issues we've had with the department administration and having it mixed in with the OAA agreements has caused some issues. So we're going to have to probably pull that out and have that kind of clean and separate. So really my question is just around is there, if we do that, if we end up doing that, which I think we are headed towards, are these columns necessary? And it sounds like they might be in some cases for you all. But just seeing if there's an opportunity to, reduce what information is needed here if NSIP is handled kind of separately as a separate agreement. So, I mean, if it helps you all to have this here as the big picture of nutrition funding, including your NSIP revenue, then I think that's fine. I was looking for an opportunity to simplify a little bit, and that's why I wanted to kind of get feedback on that.
Thank you, Brett.
Lisa, in the chat, if you brought it up, and I noticed it working on the instructions on column 18 on this particular one, it'll probably be different on various ones. Capital, it should be AL at the end instead of OL. So, and I think it's wrong on every single one. So that's just a tiny thing to change, but this is the time to do it. But yeah, and you don't have to do it right now on all of them, Lisa. Any other if there's any other little things that people catch as they work on it, feel free to add the nitpicky things. This is the time to fix those tiny little things that have been bothering you for decades. So you're not going to hurt anyone's feelings by sharing those things you've noticed. All right, Curtis added, can you make the C1 and C2 column 8 match up, please? Because of nutrition checkoff on C2, the columns don't line up. Oh, I see where you're saying,
So
so
add
like
a
the
space
table
here.
above, the column numbers are different, and you think it would be easier if everything was lined up, like a blank column. We can look at that. It might make sure it doesn't break anything for Lisa.
Right.
Um, I noticed when I was doing the instructions, I was like, why are these a little bit off? And I was like, oh yeah, it is like that. It's not wrong. But yeah, I see what you're saying there. Okay. If that's not too bad and doesn't break things, I bet we could do that. But it could get messy. We'll see. I'm glad everyone's looking at it and pointing out some little things. I appreciate that. This is your time with everyone together to tell us the things that you know need to be fixed on this.
And like I said, we'll have another Q&A on Friday once I get this sent out to you.
Yes, Stephanie. These will be for the initial 2026. Now, we know that we might not have the finalized version to you quite in time for public hearings and comment. So if you need to use the 25 budget form for those purposes, you can, but then we'll just ask you to transfer that information onto the 26 budget. But Lisa, what's our goal to have this out by again?
My goal was
Okay.
July 1st.
Okay. Yeah, so this will be a draft one that you all receive, and then we'll take anything that you all have found that we need to fix, make those updates, and then make sure we get that turned around by July 1st or sooner if we can.
Okay, because we're hoping to have ours done by Friday because of all of the deadlines and conferences and stuff. We have to have ours ready Friday.
Yeah, so if you just use the 25 one for now, not enough changed on it, that'll mess up anything for public comment. And then just before you submit your area plan on August 28th, just transfer that information over to the new budget form. So we're sorry we didn't get it out a little sooner, but we're hoping that this will at least be an okay kind of midway fix. And yes, and likewise, so if anyone's doing, if you're doing revisions for 25, still use all the 25 forms. I know we put all the new forms on the website, but yeah, just use the 25 forms for 25. Lisa, did you want me to preview the instructions a little bit to people since we have some time?
Sure, if you want to.
Yeah, why not? Hijack the screen. Okay, so we program thought it might be good to split out the budget instructions out of the area plan instructions. Um, one, to make it a little bit smaller, and two, might be easier to make updates as we need. So we've kind of redesigned them to match more our current style at KDADS. We'll have a table of contents here. Some of this I'm need to double check with Lisa on name updates, for example. So, like I said, just barely got this done. I'll run through the definitions. I'll probably take some of those out. See, I've already got some comments here on some things, but basically, not many changes from the prior instructions, just a little bit of formatting cleanup, and then trying to make sure anything new, like the funds available, that we're putting that information here and just a little bit more instruction on what should be there. And the area plan administration, it also kind of goes into what types of things can be included in each of the budget categories. So hopefully this will be helpful. I do try to note when you need to reference the field service manual or the service taxonomy. And we do just then have general definitions for these columns. So if you notice anything in here that we might have missed as I was updating this, please call it out. And we will get that updated, but hopefully, especially as you, if you ever have anyone new, hopefully this will help them figure out what in the world do I do with this crazy budget. So yeah, it's all pretty similar, just a few little changes here and there. So just wanted to show you that. And when everything's all finalized, we will get it posted to the website. Just this last week, we updated our documents and forms. It used to be a gigantic list, and now we kind of have things sectioned out. So hopefully it'll be easier for you to find the most current forms you need. Also, we're calling out if they're OAA fiscal forms or not. I guess I could share my screen on that too. All right, so if you go to the KDAD's website, go to Partners and Providers, Documents and Forms. We're a little ways down on the list. But Older Americans and Senior Care Act, it now looks like this. So for this group, you will care about the program forms. We've got area plan forms here, area plan instructions here. And here's the video from that training we had the other day. And then here's OAA fiscal. So we'll try to make sure we have all of the fiscal documents all here for you, the most updated ones. And then we also have some of the reporting templates here. So if there is anything you see that you're like, hey, this is the form we use, why isn't it on here? Feel free to point that out to us and we will get it added.
In what format or what means do you guys want to receive feedback back from the AAAs? In this chat, in an email? How do you want to organize input?
I think since the AAAs are all external, I don't think they'll have access to the chat once the meeting is over. So email would be best. What Sherry did was she emailed the form and highlighted different sections of the form and then wrote in the email what those different sections, how she would
Okay.
like them formatted. And so I think that would work.
Okay.
And then we've also, like I said, we've also got a Q&A scheduled for Friday. So if you have any questions that you want to bring out to everyone to ask, to ask in front of everyone, you can ask that on Friday.
Maybe if we could have those ahead of time so you could have answers prepared already, might be a good idea.
Yeah, that would be.
Just a thought. End of day Thursday for questions, and of course they can ask on Friday too, but to have some things so you guys can kind of be prepared and answer them.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Roxy.
Yeah.
Well, I know we scheduled 2 hours for this, but it went a little bit um quicker. Uh
I hope that's a good sign.
if there's no other questions, we can give you an hour back.
Yeah, I do just want to say before everyone goes, that we really appreciated doing the work group. It made it, I know that this made the form better. There were things that our fiscal experts on the AAA side thought of that I know we wouldn't have thought of. So we really hope that this form is better for you all and that you feel like you do have a chance to have your input in to make this work well for both KDADs and the AAAs. So yeah, please, if you, I know everyone's busy and we're asking a lot of you, but if you can play around a little bit with it and let us know what you think. Again, like Roxy said, by the end of Thursday, we really appreciate it. And Sherry asked, can you send the link for Friday to the fiscal managers? How do you all want us to do that? Directors.
Okay, Heather, this is Leslie. I think it's important that if the directors are involved, that way they can also have some input on those forms. So if you wouldn't mind, copy both the executive directors and the fiscal folks.
All right, great. That link for Friday, Barbie, did we already send that out?
This is what,
Yes.
The meeting, yes. The meeting link.
Okay.
Yes. I know that you added some directors and different things on there. I don't know who's on there and who isn't. I mean, on the original
Okay.
list you gave me, and I used the same list as I did today.
Okay. Sherry, I can forward that to you if you want.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
And then I also want to add we're doing a work group for the financial form, and that we worked on the budget first because we knew we needed to get it to you first. So we're going to continue working on the financial form next, and so hopefully early to midsummer we can get that to you and get a training to you.
And Susan, you had a question?
The link was sent to the AAA directors already, so if you haven't got it from your director, you might check with them as well, because I know Susan sent it to me. So you might check with your executive directors to see if they received it.
Do you know when we can expect to receive our planning allocation for 2026?
I
Let's
am
see,
going to
Lisa,
work
we'll
on that.
probably have that done this week, right?
Yes, I'm going to work on that right after this meeting.
And then I'll work on the letter I send with it. So yeah, we should get that out. My tomorrow's looking pretty good, so I'll shoot for tomorrow, hopefully to get that out to you all. Thanks for asking. Any other questions about anything while you have us here? Okay, I don't see any other questions in the chat, Lisa. Oh, Lisa lost sound. Okay, well, it doesn't look like there's any more questions, and Lisa lost sound, so I can close it out. Thank you, everyone, for attending this training. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day, and we will. You got sound again, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay. I was just thanking everybody.
Okay, thank you. Yes, definitely.
Have a good one. Bye.
Okay. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.